And Silent Night, Deadly Night now has the distinction of joining I Spit on Your Grave as one of the two most contemptible films I've seen. And Ira Richard Barmack produced it. You people have nothing to be proud of, even if you made a few bucks off of all the negative publicity.
Shame on you, Siskel, and shame on you, Ebert, because I don't believe you. I think it was the height of hypocrisy for them to take that attitude. If they genuinely were horrified at the picture, they know very well that the most effective thing they could have done is to not review the picture.
We even see Santa give one little girl a bloody knife as a gift and threaten another little girl with physical punishment as she sits on his lap. Your profits truly are blood money, blood money, blood money, blood money.
Silent Night, Deadly Night, the most talked about film of the decade. The movie that shocked America, outraged Hollywood, and frightened the government. The movie they tried to ban. You've read about it. You've heard about it. Now you can see it in all its terrifying horror. Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Silent Night, Deadly Night. Let's talk about the controversy this movie caused in 1984. Protests, complaints, traumatized children, furious parents. This video has it all. Silent Night, Deadly Night is the heartwarming tale of a young boy named Billy Chapman who watches a guy in a Santa suit murder his parents, which not surprisingly leads to him no longer being a fan of Santa. He ends up being raised in a Catholic orphanage run by the deranged Mother Superior, and as soon as he turns 18, he leaves the orphanage to pursue a regular life. He gets a job at a toy store, and his boss, in an act of cosmic level bad luck, forces him to play Santa. Spoiler alert, Billy does not handle it well, and that, my friends, is what makes this movie a lot of fun. Billy completely loses his eggnog and decides to spread his own kind of Christmas cheer by punishing people he deems naughty. The American Film Institute catalog cited an article from 1984 stating that the movie was re-edited 4 times before the Motion Picture Association of America downgraded its rating from an X to an R. Not only that, the U.S. Catholic Conference rated it O. The O rating was their most severe classification, indicating that the movie is unsuitable for all audiences from a moral and religious perspective. As for the outrage from parents, it didn't happen after they watched the movie. The outrage happened before the movie was even released. It started after they watched the commercials for the movie. And here's the kicker. Silent Night, Deadly Night wasn't even the first movie to do a killer Santa. One was featured in 1972's Tales from the Crypt, and in 1980, there were 2 movies with killer Santas, Christmas Evil and To All a Good Night. But none of those triggered a national meltdown. Why is that? Well, what set Silent Night, Deadly Night apart is that it pushed the concept so far into the mainstream that even your Aunt Gertrude noticed and choked on her fruitcake. But again, the outrage started before the movie was even in theaters, and what caused it has to do with how and where they advertised it. They literally aired commercials advertising the movie featuring Santa with an axe during family programming like Little House on the Prairie.
I didn't know Pa could fly a kite.
I didn't either, Mary.
The night before Christmas, when all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. Remember, he only looks like Santa Claus. You've made it through Halloween. Now try and survive Christmas. Silent Night, Deadly Night, rated R.
Starts Friday at a theater near you.
And as you can imagine, this out of nowhere jump scare shocked parents and kids who were just trying to enjoy wholesome primetime TV. I mean, it was so bad that parents didn't even finish spitting out their eggnog before they started calling TV stations to complain. Some parents were concerned that their kids would never look at Santa the same way again. One woman said her 8-year-old daughter had been crying for 2 days after watching the commercial. Even legendary actor Mickey Rooney was upset after he saw the commercial on TV. He said, "How dare they? I'm all for the First Amendment, but don't give me Santa Claus with a gun going to kill someone. The scum who made that movie should be run out of town." Which is kind of funny in retrospect because 7 years later, good old Mickey starred in Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 5. So I'm guessing this was just like a reverse Ebenezer Scrooge situation. So yeah, welcome to the dark side, Mickey. Parents groups from all over the country protested. For example, let's look at what happened in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The commercial for Silent Night, Deadly Night aired during a Green Bay Packers football game, and yeah, that was basically the apocalypse. One mother said, "It was absolutely disgusting. I was fuming. Something has to be done." And they definitely did do something. Parents formed a protest group called Citizens Against Movie Madness. Their mission? Stop the ads and get the movie banned from theaters before it was even released. And listen, I'm gonna be honest with you, I picture angry parents calling local TV stations like Tom Atkins in Halloween 3 yelling,
Stop it! Stop it!
Their Dr. Chalice cosplay worked because by November 8th, just one day before the movie's theatrical release date, all 5 local TV stations had pulled the ads for the movie. However, although they were successful in pulling the ads, 4 Milwaukee theaters were still set to show Silent Night, Deadly Night. The night before it opened, the Citizens Against Movie Madness group protested outside of the theaters, holding up "Save Santa" and "Santa is not a murderer" signs, like they were defending the North Pole from a demonic invasion. Stephen Marcus, who was president of Marcus Corp., the owners of the theater, told the Milwaukee Sentinel that they had a binding contract to show the movie for at least 1 week. But inside the theater, it was a different story. Horror fans were having the time of their life. In a Milwaukee Sentinel article from November 10th, 1984, the paper's film critic wrote, "The bloodier the scene, the louder the laughs and cheers from an audience of about 75, including several small children accompanied by their parents." So yeah, there were even children in the audience. But apparently everybody was laughing and cheering like they were watching The Goonies, if The Goonies were directed by Rob Zombie, that is. Variety said, "Most protests were generated by the feeling that the depiction of a killer in a Santa Claus suit would traumatize children and undermine their traditional trust in Santa Claus." However, Silent Night, Deadly Night producer Ira Barmack countered by saying that children would not have their vision of Christmas challenged because it was an R-rated movie, so they're not even supposed to watch the movie, unless of course their parents took them to see it. People in other parts of the country were also not feeling jolly over this movie. One protester in Maryland said, "I do not think children should be led to believe Santa Claus is the type to axe down people. We don't want children to run away from Santa Claus in a mall because they're frightened." Another protester said, "It's an invasion of a child's right to believe in God, Santa Claus, and the Easter Bunny. Now it's to the point that they saw this ad and my grandson said he does not want to sit on Santa's lap because he is scared." Which honestly might not be the worst outcome. I mean, have you ever seen mall Santas in the 80s? Half of them look like they've been up all night drinking with the elves. In a different part of the country, the Chronicle Telegram reported that a poll of local residents had voted 15-1 against Silent Night, Deadly Night. Comments in the paper included this one from a repulsed reader. "It's disgusting, immoral, and distorted, a bunch of filth." Another said, "The degenerates that made these movies should be exterminated." Well, it's good to see that this person didn't go overboard because yes, extermination is clearly the best way to handle this. It was definitely not a silent night for this movie as the Deadly Night continued. As you can imagine, movie critics were foaming at the mouth, sharpening their candy canes, and they were ready to jump in the ring with their opinion like they were the next entrant in the Royal Rumble. Variety called it a nasty bit of business, turning the arrival of Santa Claus into a red Christmas. The Kokomo Tribune said it was a disgusting display of cinematic sludge and that it gave parents a new weapon of fear. The Daily Herald said they effectively turned jolly old St. Nick into a bearded, bloodthirsty boogeyman. The Syracuse Herald Journal said the movie gives a bad name to Santa Claus grandfathers and nuns. Can the director sink any lower? The Montgomery County Herald said the film was made by people who have as much respect for life as Jack the Ripper. Of course, we can't forget about the legendary Siskel and Ebert. They released their review after the movie was no longer in theaters, so we'll get to it a little later in this video. Initially, TriStar Pictures tried to defend the movie, saying the public has the right to choose what they want to see. They said it was a tongue-in-cheek horror movie where the killer wasn't Santa, just a guy dressed up as Santa. Producer Ira Barmack said, "People have taken offense at Santa being used in a scary context. Santa Claus is not a religious figure. He's a mythic character. I didn't deliberately ride roughshod over that sensitivity, and I didn't anticipate the objection to it." Eventually, TriStar Pictures felt like their hands were tied because the protest didn't die down and a good number of theaters pulled the film, which led to TriStar themselves throwing in the towel and pulling the film about 2 weeks after it was released. Silent Night, Deadly Night reportedly made $1.4 million on opening weekend, and the following week it made just over $780,000 before getting pulled. A spokeswoman from Citizens Against Movie Madness in Milwaukee said of TriStar's decision, "Wow, I think it's great. I've heard of some people who wanted to know how to organize like we did. I guess in the end, all of my griping did some good. The way the movie ended, it looked like there would be a part 2. We told the producer if there is, we'll see him again next year." I would love to know what went through their mind when part 2 was released just 3 years later in 1987. Shortly after the movie was pulled from theaters, legendary movie critics Siskel and Ebert gave a brief review of the movie. And yeah, let's just say they were not happy to say the least. Check it out.
Coming up next at the movies, a film that dreams about a red Christmas. The controversial Santa Claus killer movie, Silent Night, Deadly Night. Actually, there have been 2 controversies about Silent Night, Deadly Night. Even before the film was released a couple of weeks ago, its TV ad campaign caused a furor with its brief depiction of an axe-carrying Santa Claus. The distributor of this film, TriStar Pictures, which is co-owned by Columbia Pictures, CBS, and Home Box Office, pulled the commercial out of release after a week of protests by parents led by a Milwaukee group. Of course, commercials like that usually die out after a week anyway, so thanks a lot, fellas. But there's no question in my mind that the showing of Santa with an axe on free TV and commercials is sick and sleazy and mean-spirited. So let's repeat the names of the people who did it. TriStar Pictures, co-owned by Columbia Pictures, CBS, and Home Box Office. Shame on you. Now, as for the film, I've got news for you. It's worse than the TV ads. Telling a typical mad slasher story about a boy who witnesses his father being shot and his mother being stabbed to death by a maniac in a Santa Claus suit. So now the traumatized kid grows up and is asked to work in a toy store as Santa one Christmas, and it freaks him out. He impales one naked girl on a set of antlers, spears another woman with a bow and arrow, and another with a knife, and yes, we even see Santa give one little girl a bloody knife as a gift and threaten another little girl with physical punishment as he sits on his lap. You might think that it would be funny, Roger, or it's played as quite sick in the film. So let me repeat the names of the writer and director and producers of this film. Michael Hickey wrote the film, Charles E. Sellier Jr. directed it, and Ira Richard Barmack produced it. You people have nothing to be proud of, even if you made a few bucks off of all the negative publicity. Your profits truly are blood money. And Silent Night, Deadly Night now has the distinction of joining I Spit on Your Grave as one of the 2 most contemptible films I've seen. And I don't mean to think it's campy. It really is quite awful.
I'm glad you mentioned those people's names because quite frequently they think, gee, we'll make this exploitation film, we'll be able to buy our Mercedes and live in Bel Air and nobody will ever know what we did. But I would like to hear them explaining to their children and their grandchildren that it's only a movie.
Yeah.
I think that would be a real interesting explanation.
The film's producer, Ira Barmack, watched Siskel and Ebert's comments, and here's his reaction.
They were coming off an enormous amount of publicity on that picture, and I think that they knew that by reviewing that picture on their show, they would get higher ratings.
And Ira Richard Barmack produced it. You people have nothing to be proud of, even if you made a few bucks off of all the negative publicity. Your profits truly are blood money.
Shame on you, Siskel, and shame on you, Ebert, because I don't believe you. I think it was the height of hypocrisy for them to take that attitude. If they genuinely were horrified at the picture, they know very well that the most effective thing they could have done is to not review the picture. I find it so amazing that if you say a guy gets into a Santa Claus suit and he's driven over the line, that people don't on the face of it see why that's funny.
After the movie was pulled, TriStar basically buried it. Ira Barmack offered to buy back the rights so he could sell them to another distributor. He said, "I still think there are a lot of people who are curious to see this movie and make up their own minds if it's terrible or a travesty." After some hesitation, TriStar eventually returned domestic and worldwide theatrical rights, as well as overseas rights to videocassette and cable release to Barmack.
Last Christmas, Silent Night, Deadly Night, that's the one with Santa as the axe murderer. Well, it's coming back. Dick Shoemaker has that story in our news studio.
Rob, when Silent Night, Deadly Night was first released, many parents were shocked that a movie about a maniacal Santa Claus would be shown at Christmas time. Well, now it's the month of May, and the film's producer is trying again.
It'll play in every part of the country, including backward in some places where it began to play and was pulled.
Silent Night, Deadly Night opens in 93 theaters tomorrow in North and South Carolina and in upstate New York, with plans for a wider release already in the works.
And let me tell you, they leaned into the scandal with the marketing. Check it out.
Silent Night, Deadly Night, the most talked about film of the decade. The movie that shocked America, outraged Hollywood, and frightened the government. The movie they tried to ban. You've read about it. You've heard about it. Now you can see it in all its terrifying horror. Silent Night, Deadly Night. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
One thing that you probably noticed is that the commercial for the re-release of the movie no longer prominently featured Santa in the advertising. Over 40 years later, Silent Night, Deadly Night is remembered for many things. Different people have different opinions on it. Some people love the movie. Some people hate the movie. For some, it's a fun Christmas slasher from the 80s. For others, it's a time capsule of moral panic. All of the protests and outrage helped make it a cult classic, and one can only imagine what the protesters from 1984 would think of Terrifier 3.
Jingle bells, a warning sound, no peace on this hallowed ground. He laughs a deep and chill